I'm standing in the military room in the shell factory. This is courtesy of the Southwest Florida Military Museum. And one of the oldest and rarest artifacts in this room is a chair from the Lincoln White House. This chair came through one family basically before it was donated to the museum, and the name of the family was the Ricketts family. And they have a set of 4 chairs that reportedly belonged to the Lincoln family before the president was assassinated. The story behind the chair's availability to the Ricketts family is that when President Lincoln was assassinated, his wife, Mary Todd Lincoln, was kind of crazed by that event, and she stayed in the White House for, I think, about a month before she finally left. And during that time, she was so depressed and so affected by the assassination of her husband that she started putting things out on the lawn for sale. And that's how these chairs got into the general population. So it came through the Ricketts family, and it's been with them for over a century. And then they donated the chairs to the museum. One of the chairs, this is one of the 4. The other 3 are located in the Edison Mall in Fort Myers. A lot of the collection in this room has to do with the Vietnam War. We do honor those soldiers, especially. The shell factory every year has a Vietnam Day in the fall. It's usually held, and that's a day dedicated just to the Vietnam soldiers. And some of our rarest pieces in this collection include a seat from a Huey helicopter, which this helicopter pilot is seated on, and his uniform is real, and also the Huey helicopter is also an authentic piece from the Vietnam War. A lot of historians believe that the Huey helicopter had such a great deal to do with the war that the soldiers even said that the sound of the Huey helicopter engines and rotors were actually the sound of the war in Vietnam. So that's the slogan they used, that it's the sound of our war, was the Huey helicopter. This is emblematic of the Soldier Cross, which is dedicated to all those servicemen who fell in the different wars, and it especially came into prominence after World War II in Korea and also Vietnam. That's when it really rose into prominence. So each of these things have to do with the soldier who falls in the battlefield. This case has to do with memorabilia, especially in artifacts from the World War II era. And we do have a pillowcase that's from Camp Gordon in Georgia. And pillowcases were pretty common. They were easy gifts to mail, so when a soldier was stationed in a certain post, he would go to the commissary, and they would usually have these pillowcases on site with the name of the base that they're located in. So they would then send these home to their loved ones, either their girlfriends, their wives, or their moms would receive a pillowcase like that. We also have a field telephone that's authentic to the World War II and also Korean War period. So that's an actual artifact from the war. And a small medikit too that the soldiers would have carried with them on the battlefield, just a small kit, sewing kit also. The next case has to do with another portion of our World War II display in this room in the shell factory is the participation of Southwest Florida in the World War II effort. And one of the things we became known for, and a lot of people don't know, is the amount of activity by German submarines or U-boats in the Gulf of Mexico during the early part of World War II. In 1942 alone, they sank over 50 oil tankers in the Gulf of Mexico. A lot of people know about the activity on the East Coast, but they forget that a lot of the oil shipments had to come down through the Gulf of Mexico from Texas and Louisiana coast, so they had to come down, and the U-boats, the German U-boats, were waiting for them there. So this particular print shows a U-boat with a burning tanker in the background, a burning ship in the background. Our history here in Southwest Florida too was built around the gigantic air base, airfield at Buckingham. That's located about 7 miles east of Fort Myers, and the Buckingham Lehigh Acres area was known for this base. It was a gunnery school. It was a 5-week course that gunners, especially from air crews, would take, and also they would learn all about their weapons and also have classroom work and field work, target practice. And in their final week of the 5-week course, they would take the servicemen, the air crewmen, out into the Gulf of Mexico in a bomber and have mock battles out in the Gulf of Mexico, simulating an attack by enemy aircraft. So they would fire their simulators at these oncoming aircraft, and they trained that way. Fort Myers or Buckingham was one of about 5 gunnery schools in the United States, and this was by far one of the largest and also one of the most advanced training sites in the country. This is a mannequin bust of John F. Kennedy. He was a young lieutenant in a new service through the Navy called the PT boats during the war, and he really wanted to get into action, even though his father was a very influential diplomat for America. He didn't want him to pull any strings and get him into an office job and a desk job. He wanted to see action, so he was assigned to a PT boat, and his famous boat was, of course, PT 109. That's a model of the PT boat he was on. We have a really rare photograph that has to do with this PT boat service in the case, and that photograph on top shows John Kennedy on the right, bare-chested, with his PT 109 crew. And there are autographs on some of these, on the large photo, and some of the clip photos on the bottom of the frame piece. And those are from actual autographs from the PT boat crewman that Kennedy was assigned with. And an interesting and really unique part about the top photograph is that it came from the personal collection of Evelyn Lincoln. Evelyn Lincoln was John Kennedy's personal secretary. So that photograph came through her, and it's a good possibility that John Kennedy himself might have even held that photograph during its existence. The bottom part of the frame also has a small pin in the middle of it, and it's a PT 109 pin, and that was given by John Kennedy during his campaign for president in 1960. So special people who donated to the campaign or personal friends would be given those pins of the PT boat from John Kennedy's service in the war. And they're pretty rare, and they're really nice little mementos of his wartime service, but it also transitioned into his political aspirations of becoming president in 1960. Now, the 2 other rare pieces in this case have to do with John Kennedy's assassination in Dallas, Texas. The top glass shelf contains a piece of the picket fence from Dealey Plaza in Dallas, Texas. And the picket fence was located on a grassy knoll overlooking Dealey Plaza. It was a slightly elevated area. Many conspiracy theorists believe that there was a second gunman hidden on that grassy knoll behind the picket fence area because it had a slight elevation and it had a direct view of the Kennedy motorcade coming forward or toward them. And in the fatal headshot wound taken by Zapruder, we see Kennedy, while he was shot the third time, the fatal headshot, his head flies back, and that signified to a lot of people that he was shot from the front, causing his head to fly backward. So this is a very rare artifact from Dealey Plaza, the piece of picket fence during the Kennedy assassination. The bottom frame piece on the right shows a picture of Lee Oswald, who was the suspected gunman who was hiding in the book depository building on the 6th floor and fired the 3 shots that reportedly killed Kennedy. He was the only one charged in that. Oswald, this happened on a Friday that Oswald took the fatal shots, or supposedly did so, and on Sunday, 2 days later, he was being transferred in the Dallas police station to another location when he was shot in the police station basement by a gunman named Jack Ruby, who was a nightclub owner. And the top photo shows Ruby firing the one shot that killed Oswald. Now there's a picture of the gun on the bottom and also a picture of a bullet on the right side on the bottom of that frame. And that plaque says that this bullet was fired from the most famous gun in the world, which was Jack Ruby's revolver. So the story behind the bullet, they did this as a moneymaker, actually, the family of Jack Ruby, who inherited the gun. They actually fired the gun 5,000 times, or 5,000 bullets, and then began selling the bullets off as mementos and tagging it with the fact that this bullet was fired by the most famous revolver ever in the world. We're in the military room of the Shell Factory. This is the Southwest Florida Military Museum display. And half of this room is dedicated to the President Kennedy and talking about the dark days in America, which was his assassination in Dallas, Texas in 1963 on November 22nd. This original artwork that is part of the video display screen too, was painted by Fort Myers artist Marianne Passator. And she actually focused on a gun sight of what the gunman would have seen if he's firing a shot from the back and from the 6th floor of the book depository in Dallas. So the focus is on the head. The bullseye is on the head of Kennedy. The only colored part is Jackie Kennedy seated next to him in the pink pillbox hat, and she wore a pink suit too. But the rest of the artwork is in grays and blacks. But this is a very dramatic photo of the assassination scene by Marianne Passator. We have a streaming video that's continuously moving and talking about the assassination on that day from various experts. So we have the volume down now, but that's a continuously rolling film of that day in Dallas. The rest of the display has to do with photographs from that day also. We see color photographs, especially the one on the far left, on the upper left, of Kennedy, and that would be the front of this painting. where Jackie is seated next to him with that pink outfit and also the pink pillbox hat. And of course, Governor Connolly in the seat in front of Kennedy. Dramatic photographs of it, including the Zapruder film, which was filmed of the motorcade as it went through Dilley Plaza. That was the dramatic film that everybody looks at when they're talking about the assassination and the supposed one gunman theory, or a second gunman also theory. The rest of the wall on this side has to do with the after effects, the funeral procession that happened that Monday after the assassination in Washington, D.C. And also we have a dramatic photograph taken again of Jack Ruby killing Lee Harvey Oswald in the police station in Dallas on 2 days after the assassination. So the suspected gunman, Lee Harvey Oswald, was slain that Sunday, 2 days afterward, and that's why we call this display the Dark Days in American History. I'd like to thank you for being with us here in this brief overview of the room in the shell factory that's sponsored by the Southwest Florida Military Museum. And this is one phase of our museum. The other phase is actually out in the parking lot area, and that's the mobile museum bus that also has artifacts from each of the wars that America has been involved in. And also the main room, or the main museum display, is located in the Edison Mall in Fort Myers, Florida. So thank you for joining us, and come and visit us.